This tutorial is going to take us through creating the template for the poster that we're going to be creating using Canva. It is assumed that you've already watched the tutorial where you have created some text in ChatGTP, which we are going to be utilizing in just a minute. So once you've created your account and signed in, you will be presented with this screen. And I'm not sure if poster will be right here for you, but I'd like you to find in this slide bar the poster option, and you're going to be creating an 18 by 24 inch portrait poster. And you just click create or create a blank, and it will open up in a new tab, which is important to know. And in this tab you will have your canvas, where the name Canva comes from. Now we want to set this up so there are grid lines like in the videos that we watched. And at first I want everyone in the class to use the same grids, but when you get to project 3 and you're expanding on stuff a little bit in your knowledge, you can create something, if you choose to, that has a different sort of grid style. So I'd like you to go up to the File heading and click on File, and then View Settings, and then Add Guides. When this pops up, you will see the column guides by default show up on the canvas. We, however, want to create a modular grid where we have columns and horizontal lines, so that we have multiple modules on the page. As the tutorials we watched for today explained, it's helpful to have both of those. So I'd like you to click on Custom, and in the columns you could just leave this exactly as, no, I'd like you to change the columns to 12 and the rows to 18. And the gap here is going to be 0.3. Oops. 0.3. And you have to type that 0 in there. And the margins will stay 0. Okay, so we have 12 columns, 12 rows, and there's that gap, which is really the gutter or the alley between them. And we click Add Guides. And we can see now that we have these guides here that will help us with our layout. And what's nice is we can zoom in and out of here to look at certain things. Now, what Canva does not create is a margin for you. So as part of the setup process for our design, I would like you to hover over the elements and click on the elements and choose a square. Right? It will automatically put the square by default in the center. And I'd like you to drag that up and then stretch it so that it contains, if we get close here, the outer part of the first gutter and the last gutter, top and bottom. Then what we can do, once we've done that, is we can click on the color and select the option that has no color. And we can see that now it is transparent, but we want to make sure that this still stays here. So we want to add a line. And I'd like you to add, I don't know, maybe 8 weight line around it so we get a nice understanding of where our border of our poster is going to be. This gives us a nice little margin on the outside and gives us a nice contained content area in here. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start populating our poster with the content from ChatGTP, and doing so in a way that adheres to the design theories that we watched in the videos, using negative space, proximity, repetition if you want, contrast, alignment, focal points, those kinds of things. And so what I'd like you to do is we'll click on text and you'll see that there will be some options here. And we're going to add a heading, and we're going to go and grab from here the main heading, copy, go back to Canva, and I'd like you to paste that in. Now the font size is probably going to be too big, and I'd like you to keep the font that is here for the moment. We will be able to change that later on, but I want to learn about typography first, which we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. And I'd like you to position this in the top of the page, or wherever you think the title should go. Now, obviously this is too big, so we're going to have to make it smaller. But we want to make sure that we are aligning and using the grid lines to help us position our content. And we can see that I can nudge it over a little bit. If I click on this, should nudge, it's not nudging. There it is. Sometimes the alignment is not exact. Again, it's not Photoshop, it is Canva, but it will be good enough for our purposes here. Let me see if I can. So we don't want it to align with, let's see. There we go, right there. We got to get it right up to the edge. And I could position this in the center if I wanted. It would allow that to happen. I could just go like that. It would put it directly in the middle. But I think I want it over here on the left. Now I will also add another heading with the subtitle. Paste it in. Again, I could stretch this out, make it smaller. Get this right over here, right up to that. Close that F as I can. And as I pull in, get smaller. And now I can position it the way I'd like to on the canvas. Again, I'd like to zoom in here so we can get it nice and precise. I'm going to make this aligned left. And I can think about if I want it aligned towards the top of this gutter, or do I want it aligned lower than the gutter? That all depends on how I want it to be positioned. Now you can see that this is bumping into itself, and we learned from the videos that we do need to have some space. We don't want it to be too cluttered. So maybe I want it to be positioned and aligned by that grid line right there. Snapshot of photography from Nietzsche to Polaroid and beyond. And we can see how this is all very nicely aligned with one another. So I have a choice to make now. If I want, I could use some of this. Let's say I want to just grab this one paragraph. One sentence. I can go back and add a little bit of a body text to here. Maybe I want to make this a 12-column line or box right there, and I can paste in this body text. I can make the font much smaller. Like I said, I would really prefer it if you use the default fonts for now. And I can look at the letters, the line height. I can reduce the line height here. That up a little bit so it brings the line closer together. And we can see that we have everything sort of positioned here in this based on the grid. Now, if you ever want to check out what it looks like without the grid lines, you can go to View Settings and you can uncheck Grid, and you can see what the positioning will look like. But you can see how nicely aligned it is over there. That would not be possible without our grids. So we're going to turn the grid back on. View settings, show rulers and grid. It saves it for you, and then we can move forward. If we felt like we wanted to move this up a little bit to align these letters with the top outside of the gutter, we can do that. Or we can simply move along. Now I want to create some subheadings here that are going to have the subheadings from our discussion. The birth of photography, for example, is one. And I can grab this. Now the reason we're using this text, as I mentioned in the other video, is because designers often would use the lorem ipsum text. But I wanted to do something that would give us something, the little things that we can look at, add some images later on. And the recent court rulings have shown or decided that content created with AI is not copyrightable. So we're not impinging on anybody's copyright here with this design that we're creating. We're just using text that has been generated for us that we now have the opportunity to use. So I've now created a heading that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across, and I am going to duplicate that heading so I can create another one that is exactly the same size. And this is part of that repetition that I'm looking at here. I'm also creating a very traditional layout. We're going to be talking a little bit about how to break that tradition later on, but it's good to learn the rules first before we can break them. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to grab the daguerreotype era and paste that in, and I'm going to align that to the right. I'm going to align this to the left. And now we have both of these positioned very nicely in the grid. And again, I always like to go through and see how things look without the grid there. And we can see that things are nicely aligning. Pull that out a little bit. And now we have this gutter between them. And I'm now going to go and create another text box. First, I'm going to put my grid back up. I'm going to create a text box that is going to be this size. For example, the size of this right here, so it's nicely underneath that. I'm going to have to change the font size a little bit. Might as well do that now. Let's make that 14. Again, this is a poster, so this is a very big thing. What we're looking at here is 18 inches wide, if we were ever to print it out. So I'm going to go back and grab this content. Oh, this is for birth photography. And I will make it. Uh-oh. What happened there? It exploded. Pop that in. Get that to be that size. Now looking at this, it's much too big. I also don't want it justified. I'm going to change that font size to, I think I had, 16 before? That might be a little too small for our purposes. Let's say 20. Okay. Now I might decide that I want this really aligned like that. See how the letters are right down there on the grid line. Just to see what that looks like, I'll have to turn off the grid. I always do that, turn off the grid when I see. And that's a nice proximity. Might be a little too close. And if that's the case, we can always adjust things slightly. But basically what I'd like you to do as you are designing your poster. And this is a very traditional poster, is that I'd like you to create a poster doing basically what I've done here. You could change layout options, obviously, yes. I'm just showing you how things can work, using nearly as much of the content that you've got from your discussion from ChatGTP in a nice poster. I'd like you to keep it all black and white, just like this. We're going to be learning about color theory at another time. Eventually, we will be taking away this shape so that we can see our poster without it. Or if we like to have it in there, we'll pop it back in there. Actually, it looks pretty good with it. Maybe not so thick. Looking at it now, these might be a little too close together. Okay, but when you are doing your design work, I would like you to ensure that you are using the theories from the videos that we watched, because I'm going to be asking you in the future to discuss how you have taken advantage of proximity, how you've taken advantage of contrast, how you've taken advantage of repetition. Each of those will have to be accounted for when you do your final reflections for your design work. So please make sure you are thinking about them and employing them as you're putting this together. We're going to be doing many instances of this project. Don't worry about saving room to add graphics, because we will be doing that at a later time, which will challenge us to rethink our design and make sure that we're not just keeping the same thing over and over. One of the great challenges for designers is coming up with new ideas, and by adding content, by adding color, by adding different typography, that necessarily will change the way things are being presented on the page. Once you have done this, Canva automatically saves it for you in your account, so you don't have to worry about that. But I would like you to share this with me. You can put in my email address right here, and that will give me an opportunity to be able to go in and take a look at it as you're designing it, and also answer any questions that you might have relating to functionality that you might not be able to figure out. So please do share that with me when you have begun work on your project. So I'm really excited to see what you all come up with. I'm excited to see what subjects you choose. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. Have fun with this. It should be something fun and exciting, even if you've used Canva before. And I hope it's really something new for those of you who have not. Have a great day. Bye-bye.